Welcome back to the Mark Moses Show, only right here on Sports Radio 95.9 The Fan. Right now here on the Club 52 Hotline to talk a little Florida State football. Good friend of mine, Tim Linafelt with Seminoles.com. Tim, how you doing today, man?
Doing great, Mark. How are you?
All right. The school has two national champions now. You had football last year and women's soccer beating Virginia. I mean, this is pretty big, right?
No, yeah, man. It's really cool. For people who don't know, the soccer team here at Florida State has been really just one of the most consistently elite programs on campus. Their senior class has been at the College Cup, which is soccer's version of the Final Four. They've done that 4 years in a row. Finally got over the hump this year, their first ever national title, and just a really big-time accomplishment for them, and I think really a big thing and a special thing for their coach, Mark Krikorian, who is easily one of the most respected people in the entire athletics department. So just everybody just kind of over the moon for them that they were able to get that title.
You know what's interesting is you look at Florida State as a school, it's like, all right, this is a football school, but hey, baseball, soccer, basketball, they have other sports, right? Come on.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what, man, I was actually chatting with one of the athletics administrators yesterday, and we were sort of saying, like, do you think people fully appreciate what's been going on here and just in the entire department? Obviously football, but soccer winning the national title, volleyball is in the Sweet 16. The baseball team is always really strong. The softball went to the Women's College World Series last year. Across campus, it really is kind of a golden age for FSU athletics, if you will. And I said, I think it really could be the kind of thing that, it might take some time, maybe even 10, 15 years for people to really, appreciate living or being witness to that era. It's a cool time to be around here for sure.
Yeah, great stuff. We're at Tim Linafelt, Seminoles.com. Yeah, congratulations to the women's soccer team winning that championship. All right, let's go back to Charlotte Saturday night. Georgia Tech gets the ball and they start scoring touchdowns. You're like, oh, here we go again. I mean, what was your thoughts, man?
Well, at that time, if I'm being completely honest, about midway through the first quarter or so, I had a thought that if I'm being totally honest, I thought several times over the last third or so of the season, I was like, tonight could be the night because what you saw with Florida State's first drive, especially, was they went 3 and out, and then you see Georgia Tech get the ball and just drive down the field with ease, and so you're thinking, oh man, that's not good. But then Florida State figured some things out on offense, and more importantly, figured some things out on defense. And, it wouldn't be appropriate for this season if it didn't come down to the wire and one score and all that sort of thing. That's sort of the way this season goes, and it's going to have to go, I guess. So it was an appropriate victory for them, and also I think a pretty satisfying one.
I was talking this with a Noles fan before we came on today about the last couple games. I think maybe Boston College, Florida, and then that ACC title game. Have the Noles really scored a touchdown in the second half in any of these games, or is it just the Aguayo show after a while?
It's been a while, man. I know they did against Miami. I'm not sure they have in any of their other games. But hey, who needs them,
What about the job that Aguayo has done? I mean, this guy, Mr. Automatic for the Noles. I mean, how good of a job has he done this season?
Oh my gosh! I mean, he's been unbelievable. He's down in West Palm Beach now doing some stuff with the Lou Groza Award people, and we'll find out on Thursday if he wins the second straight Lou Groza Award. You got to think he's a heavy favorite. And what's really interesting to me about Roberto this year is, he was great last year, but the way Florida State was just blowing people out and dominating, he made all those kicks, but he didn't really have a lot of really big kicks to make. There weren't any, last-second game winners or anything like that. Well, that hasn't been the case this year. I mean, obviously, he had the game winner against Boston College, and I know that was basically a chip shot, but still, it was a kick with time running down that won them the game. And then, it's against Georgia Tech on Saturday. He's made 3 field goals in the second half, and it turns out, especially after that late touchdown, that Florida State needed every last one of them. So, I think that counts as a game winner, too. So, not only has he continued to make at an almost automatic rate, but he's also, made some pretty big kicks in pretty big times.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're here at Tim Linafelt, Seminoles.com. Here's the thing with Florida State. And you were talking about, maybe the streak ended in that game against Georgia Tech, but it didn't. I feel like with these other teams, they can make mistakes. But Florida State, and I don't think this gets talked about enough, if they made any mistake this year and lost the game, they would have been finished, right? That's what I don't think gets talked about enough.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, and it's the kind of thing that you would you'd like to maybe get out of that habit, if you will. But at the same time, yeah, if you're Florida State, you're looking. What circumstances do you feel that you can't come back from? You know what I mean? They've been down 3 touchdowns on the road. They've seen their quarterback throw 4 interceptions in a game and come back and win. There's almost no time, no set of circumstances that you're looking around on the sideline and thinking, or at least that they're thinking that this can't be done, and I think that's pretty valuable.
What about the job of number 4 for this offense, Delvin Cook, down the stretch? He's been a workhorse. He had a big game against Georgia Tech. What about you? What's your take on the job that Cook's done for this offense?
He's been unbelievable as well, and I say that a lot, but there are a lot of unbelievable things about this team. No, man, I think, if you look back at this season, no matter how it plays out, but especially if Florida State goes on to win 2 more games, I think that, his emergence and what he's provided for the team, I think that's maybe the most significant development of the season, really, for them. Just the way that he runs, the speed, the power, and it just seems to get better every single week. It's funny. Midway through the season when he was starting to come on, we asked a couple guys, what's he like? What your impression of him? And everybody sort of says, he's going to be a great player. He's going to be a really good one for us. Well, we're past the gonna be stage. I mean, he is a great player. I think he's right now one of the most important players on offense, absolutely, behind Jameis Winston and Rashad Green, and he just brings an element that maybe they lacked at the first part of the season, which is that he's fast and he's extremely elusive. And how many times have we seen him kind of cut back, find a lane, find a crease where maybe we didn't see one. It's really impressive, and I don't make this comparison lightly, but he kind of reminds me of a slightly bigger, maybe not quite as fast Warwick Dunn. Just in the fact that he's so elusive and has the ability to kind of squeeze through tight spaces and find the lane. It's really impressive.
What's he like off the field? I mean, he must be excited. You're a freshman, you're becoming the number 1 starter, and you're going to play in the 14 playoff. I mean, he's pretty excited, right?
I think he is, and I think you saw that especially. He had a big game at Miami, and he's from Miami, so those games are always special for Miami players, and I think you kind of see him, pretty excited on the field. And after he scored the touchdown, flashing the 305 to the crowd, which is obviously his area code, and. And so, yeah, I mean, I think he is excited. But, talking to some of the other players, about some of the more veteran guys, they all say, to a man, they've all said that he's just as good of a guy as he is a player. They all seem to really like, being around him and practicing with him. And he seems to have really kind of earned the respect of that locker room, which is, it can be a difficult thing to do for a freshman.
Let's switch gears. Let's talk about the defense, because it's looked a little shaky over the past couple of games, giving up a lot of rushing yards especially. And you're taking on Oregon in the Rose Bowl. What is your take on this defense heading into the bowl season?
Well, man, it's like you said, it seems to be first half has kind of been a struggle, but I think that, a lot of times, especially you saw it against Georgia Tech, you saw it against Louisville and some of the other teams, they've been really good at making adjustments at halftime, really good at kind of making the changes that they need to make. And it's been, it's made a difference in some of these games. Georgia Tech, they did score 14 points in the second half, but one was on the first drive of the third quarter, and one wasn't until the very end of the game. Mm-hmm. And that kind of meat of the second half in between is what allowed Florida State to take the lead and eventually get the points they needed to win. So, look, I think Florida State doesn't want to be giving up 35 points a game to anybody. Certainly not Georgia Tech, and certainly not Oregon. But the way those points have come, I think, if you scratch the surface a little bit, maybe makes it look a little bit better than the score and the stats indicate. So I'm interested to see what happens with so much time to prepare for Oregon. They've got 3 weeks to kind of get ready for that offense. But they really don't see much of that sort of thing in the ACC. So it's going to be interesting to see if that extra time helps them prepare.
Could you make a case this is the best offense that this team has seen in the past 2 or 3 years when you look at the matchup?
Man, it's really hard for me to say. I think they're absolutely up there. I think Oregon Auburn last year had a tremendous offense too. That maybe, I'm sure they do some different things, but in terms of like the concepts and the hurry up and the no huddle and the speed with which they run, I think Auburn is maybe not a terrible comparison to Oregon. And we saw, Auburn was able to get some yards and some points against Florida State. So, I think it could, in the Rose Bowl, I think we can kind of see something similar to what we did in the ACC championship game. Is maybe Oregon has some success early, Florida State kind of figure out what's going on and what's working, and maybe be able to make those adjustments and slow them down as the game wears on. And the question is, how much can you slow them down and how much success did they have before you were able to slow them down, and that can kind of, be the difference between winning and losing.
What's the thought around campus right now? Because I know you live around there. They're in Tallahassee. Are they excited to go to the Rose Bowl again, or do they really want to have that shorter trip down there to the Superdome? I mean, what's the take going on in campus?
I think people were really fired up. They spent all last week when the rankings were released thinking they were going to go to New Orleans, and I think everybody was really fired up and excited about that. And obviously, the idea of playing Alabama and all the juicy storylines that would go along with that would be pretty fun. That game would be fun, and the build-up would be a blast as well. But I think over the last couple of days, now that the matchup's kind of sinking in, and the whole experience of Los Angeles, I think people are excited for it. It was a pretty great time for people last year. Obviously, the game worked out really well, and folks had a really good time. And I thought that Jimbo Fisher made a really good point during his one of his interviews on Sunday. So yeah, it is back-to-back years, but Florida State went 75 or so years of football having never played in the Rose Bowl. Mm-hmm. So now they're back-to-back, but who knows if it'll ever happen again? And so if you went and had a great time, it's a good time to go. If you didn't go and want a chance to get out there to Los Angeles and see the Rose Bowl, which I can tell you firsthand is pretty spectacular, this is a pretty good opportunity to do it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I can't wait. The only killer is, how long do we have here? Like a month? Well, how long are we waiting here?
Man, it's not that far. The last one was far because it wasn't until the 6th or 7th of January. This one's New Year's Day, so we're only about 3 weeks out.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I can't wait. His name is...
Oh, it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Tim Linafelt, Seminoles.com. Tim, thank you for your help, and I hope I can get you on again before the bowl game.
Anytime, Mark. Glad to do it.